Thanks so much for listening and watching another episode of the Maverick Makers Podcast. This week we have Will Greenblatt. Will is a coach, speaker, author, and founder. He started acting in film and TV at the age of 7, starring The Homecoming with Oscar winner Anne Bancroft. He graduated from the National Theatre School of Canada in 2010, but the toxic environment of the program left him jaded, so he quit acting. He moved to Spain, where he discovered his love for teaching English, and then dived into the world of entrepreneurship, co-founding a startup in China. He co-founded OutLoud Speakers School in 2017 and has been teaching public speaking and communication skills to entrepreneurs and executives. He is such an amazing person to speak with. You are going to love this episode, and let's go. Here we are again on another episode of the Maverick Makers Podcast, and we have the lovely Will Greenblatt. As mentioned in the introduction, he is a speaker and coach. Welcome to the show, Will.
Thanks for having me. It's really exciting to do this. It's one of my favorite things to do. I wish I could just be a podcast guest for a living, because that would be, I think, the most fun.
Yeah, maybe that's a new career venture. So podcast guest, here he is. Book him up now. Okay, let's get started. So you have had this really interesting career and life journey. I'm really excited to talk to you about it. Let's start with the first thing. At age 7, you were an actor. You had a big break. I'll let you tell the story, who you were acting with. Pretty exciting. And I can totally relate to this as well, because we're a family of actors way back when, but I definitely prefer behind camera. But anyways, tell me about your story. How did it start?
For sure. So as you mentioned, your parents were actors and your family was in the business. So was mine. My father was a writer and a director and an actor. My mom was a writer, director, and my older sister at age 10 was already an actress. She was in TV shows and a play. And there was this opportunity to audition for this movie that my sister was going to audition for. And it was a role for a little boy playing her younger brother. I ended up getting the part and she didn't, which was contention in the family. But it was insane. It was an American feature film called The Homecoming, based off a best-selling book. The movie turned out not great for many reasons, but it was a big film. And Anne Bancroft, who was the award-winning, Oscar-winning for The Graduate, playing Mrs. Robinson, was the grandmother in the movie. And so my first role was this kind of big thing. And I had no idea what that meant at the time, what the scope of this thing was. I just knew, hey, this is really fun. And for about 2 months, I was on set every day in Ontario, filming on location, and we were filming in the countryside, and it was really fun. And I got to do all these stunts, and it was like the most amazing thing, but I didn't know, I had no concept of like what it was going to be. And it started this like child acting career. And so from that film, because when your career starts, I guess, in this decent sized thing, people are like, hey, who's this young kid? Oh, maybe he's the next whatever. And so they start suggesting things, and managers from LA started like calling my parents to be like, let me represent him. We'll fly him down here. And it was, I think, a lot for my parents to handle. Luckily, they were in the business, so they kind of knew the way things work. So they were like, pump your brakes. They knew that was not necessarily the best life decision for me. So I stayed in Toronto, but I kept making film and TV. I kept auditioning and I kept getting parts. So yeah, that's how it started.
Amazing. And what was it like to be 7? I have an 8-year-old son, so I think almost 9, but I think about 7. So what was it like to be a child actor at that age? Like, did you even understand the magnitude? You sort of touched on it, but how do you think that shaped you?
So it definitely shaped me in some good ways and also some bad ones as well. To have the responsibility of going on set, remembering your lines, remembering what they tell you to do, it's definitely not the hardest job in the world, but you still have to do your shit. And so as a kid, I made sure I knew my lines and I made sure I was doing the thing right. And I also, my parents were helping me like acting 101. What is your character feeling in this moment? Like helping me at age 7 understand that. So I worked as hard as I could on that. But going into audition rooms every week, multiple times a week as an actor, you're basically trying to be like, please like me. I hope that you like me, because if you like me, I get the part. And that's a really bad thing, I think, for a child to do, to walk into a room and just desperately perform to be liked. And that shaped me in a very difficult way that I'm still unraveling, right? Like to walk into a room and to be like, here I am, it creates a lot of performative instincts in me to try to perform to get people to like me, to try to say whatever it takes, to try to like smile in a certain way and use my voice in a certain way. And that's actually useful. And I think that's helped me a lot in my life. But it's ultimately, I've found it's really hurt me in knowing who the fuck I am and trying to be myself in those situations. So I feel like I've spent a lot of my life performing for other people and not figuring out what it was that I wanted to do, what I wanted to say. And that probably kept me in acting a lot longer than I otherwise would have, because I was trying to stick to this thing that I knew people liked and found impressive. When I told them what I did and told them the sort of movies or shows that I was in, they were like, oh, wow, you're doing something great with your life. And then to actually realize I didn't want to do that and to leave and go do my own thing was a really difficult process, partly because I was so addicted to other people saying, you're cool, because, or this is a great thing to be doing with your life, or that's, wow, you're an actor. That's awesome.
Love this perspective and interception. Like just thinking about that, you're so right. Just wanting to be liked and impressing people and playing that part. I think that's why actors have so many highs and lows and there's mental ill, like there's so many ups and downs and crazy because it is so tumultuous. I don't think people realize the whole smoke and mirrors aspect that everybody thinks it's like, but it's not. There's a dark part. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. How did your parents support you through this? Because again, so it's great that they were in the business, but being a child actor, there is a lot of pressure. I don't know, again, let's talk about it too. Did you feel like, did you go to an acting elementary school, like an art school, or were you at just a regular stream school? Was it hard for you to balance and just, be a regular kid with sports and school and on-set tutors? And tell me about that.
What my parents did, which was really smart, was they kept me away from Los Angeles. And my mom insisted a couple times that I take a break during my youth, to be like, just go to school and be a normal kid, especially in high school. So in high school, I did spend a lot more time at school and actually like as a normal kid without kind of constantly having to be on set. And then, catch up with my homework and, with the onset tutors, as you mentioned. So I think my parents were amazing about that. And I don't know if your family was the same way, but they didn't want me to get into it because they knew how fucking difficult it is as a career path. It's so hard to make it as an actor. And I think it's only worse nowadays. There's more competition. There's fewer roles. Who the hell knows what AI is going to do to the industry? And they were like, don't do it. Don't be an actor. And there's a classic joke. You ask anybody, what's your advice to young actors? Any older actor, they're like, get out now. And that's the classic response. So they knew how crazy it was. But once I decided I did it. And once they were like, oh, he's, he likes it and he's, got some success and whatever. They were just really supportive, and they made sure that they were on set with me as much as possible, rather than like, a babysitter or somebody else. And they did as much as they could to do that.
Let's continue your journey. So tell me what happened after theater school and life, how you became that Maverick entrepreneur later.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, so when I work with clients to help them with their storytelling, the work that I do, I tell them to think of their founder story. And so for my life, it kind of looks like this. The origin part of the founder story is your childhood origin. So I started at age 7, started acting. And then you have what happens to you kind of as a youth. So for me, I was kind of going along thinking, I'm going to be an actor. This is perfect. I have my career set. So my friends were all like, what am I going to do? University, what am I going to do? And I was like, this is great. I know what I'm going to do. I actually ended up doing a year of non-theater school. Just there's this 1 year program you can do in Halifax, which was really cool. It's like a history of Western thought. So you do a bit of philosophy, a bit of literature, a bit of history. That was great. But I always knew I was going to theater school. So I auditioned for theater school out in Halifax, got into NTS. I had an acting coach who helped me, and she ended up becoming my business partner for this company. But I got into theater school, and my sister had gone to this theater school. So more of this family nepotism going on here. So I got in, and I had met some of her classmates and seen some of her shows, and it seemed like the coolest place. Like it just seemed like the most amazing thing. It's like drama class on steroids. I loved drama in high school, always loved it. Loved the drama camps that I had done. I was like, this is going to be amazing. The year before I graduated high school, my brother passed away. So it was me, my sister, and my brother, and our younger brother died when my sister was 20 and I was 17 and he was 15. And, completely destroyed our family, and especially my sister and I, who were like, we were still really young. And my sister was already at theater school. So she was kind of like, had picked her thing more or less, but I was just graduating high school. I knew I wanted to go to theater school, but I hadn't graduated high school yet. So the year before my last year in theater school, my brother died, and it kind of just, well, it rocked me, first of all, but then I feel like it also sort of shook me out of this autopilot in a way that I'd been on. And the other thing that happened was 3 months after my brother died, I got arrested for a crime I didn't commit. And that's a whole other story. But the difficulty of that happening, being arrested and then trying to, keep myself out of prison as a 17-year-old kid who just lost his brother, taking about 2 months out of this grieving process to clear my name and to get a lawyer and make sure that, make sure I was okay. It kind of like, the way my mom describes it, it was like it froze you in your grief. So instead of processing your grief, it froze it. And that started this like kind of dark descent into me being like, I hate life. I hate the universe. The universe is out to get me. I don't know why me? Why did this happen to me and my family? These two events back to back that were so traumatic, and things just weren't right. I was just really depressed, really grief stricken, but not working through it properly, not moving through it, just like stuck in it, and drinking way too much, and stuff with my friends like that to just try to numb the pain, right? That's what I was trying to do. I was like, how can I stop feeling so awful? And so that was like drugs and alcohol and parties. And so it kind of quickly became clear. So when I went to theater school, I was already dealing with the aftermath of these two things. And then I got there, and theater school was not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like drama class on steroids. It was this dark, like emotional, like abusive kind of thing where they were like, tell us about the worst moments that ever happened to you and like show them on stage. I was like, I'm pretty raw right now. Like, I don't think I'm ready to do that. And a lot of my classmates were in the same boat. They were, I think the arts attracts people who have been through shit a lot of the time, right? Like, especially if you come to the arts as you're older, if there's some kind of pain or there's some kind of thing you're dealing with, the arts is a great outlet for it. So a lot of my classmates were dealing with some really heavy shit, and we all kind of suffered there. And the administration did not know how to navigate that. I think there's also, pre-Me Too, a lot of these schools were really bad. Before people started talking about this kind of stuff, talking about the way teachers, exercise their power over students, like a lot of the theater schools in Canada were really bad. And after Me Too, a lot of the stories started coming out. And certainly there was no physical or sexual abuse of the students that I was aware of while I was there, but there was a lot of emotional and verbal abuse. And I don't even think they thought of it that way, but that's what it was. And that's how it happened. And so, yeah, by the time I graduated, I was done. I was like, I don't know what my life is, but it's got to be different than this. And that's when I moved to Spain.
Awesome. And then what happened after? Yeah. What happened in Spain?
So I went to Spain because I was just like, I don't know what to do. And I know it's not acting. And it was a lot for me to kind of deprogram myself from like, since I was 7 years old, having one career path and then being like, okay, I'm now 23. Like, what am I doing here? And so a friend and I were like, my friends and I from high school, who I was, doing too much, partying with too much to kind of forget about the pain I was in. We were like, let's do a guy's trip in Europe and let's get our English teaching certificates to pay for this so that we can like get jobs and we don't have to save money and we can, work our way through Europe kind of thing. So that was the plan that we had. So one friend and I bought a one-way ticket to Barcelona, and another friend of mine, after we got our teacher certificates, another friend of mine was going to join us later. He had some personal stuff. So my friend Mark and I got on a ticket, got on a plane, went to Barcelona on January like 20th or something. It was minus 30 in Toronto. And then we got to Barcelona. It was like plus 16 and sunny. We're like, yes, we did it. We did the right thing. And we couldn't find jobs in Barcelona. Finally, we got an interview in Madrid. So we were like, I guess we're moving to Madrid. We packed up our suitcases and we moved to Madrid, basically, living out of hostels. And we got jobs. And so it's like, great, we got a job at a school. And so we started to build a life. And then our other friend joined us in Madrid. And it quickly became clear to me that living with these two guys, my two best friends from high school, was not what I needed. I needed to be alone and I needed to be kind of doing my own thing because I was just repeating the same habits of like getting fucked up every weekend, like way too much drinking, too much partying. I mean, I know a lot of young people when they're traveling do that, but it wasn't, it wasn't good for me. It wasn't like helping me heal. It was the opposite. And so eventually I just kind of said to them, like, I got to go on my own. Like, I love you guys, but this is not what I think I need in my life. And they were good about it. And, they understood. And so I ended up taking a job in a small town in the north of Spain, in Leon. And that's where things started to shift. I was like, okay, I need to kind of be alone and figure out who I am and kind of, just figure some stuff out. And that started to work. And so I spent a year and a half in Spain, learned Spanish, and realized I loved teaching. I loved teaching English, and I loved helping people kind of make these transformations where they didn't know something, and then the way I explained it, they were like, "Oh!" And that's where my love of that sort of thing came in. Was like watching people go through these light bulb moments, and realizing that like the difference between teaching and acting was it was still kind of a performance when you're in front of a class, which my acting skills helped with, but it was two ways. Right? They could ask questions, and there was this like audience performer interaction in the way that there is not in traditional theater. And so that was super cool. I realized I loved that, and I got good at it eventually after being terrible at it for like a year straight. And I started figuring it out. And then after Spain, it was like, okay, well, I feel a little better, but I'm still really depressed. Like, what do I do with my life now? And the same friends that I was in Spain with had an idea to start a company of English teachers in China. And I was like, man, I really thrived my best when I was away from my friends. Like, I think I should go off and do my own thing. And I got a job offer in Colombia, and I was thinking about moving to Brazil. But basically, my friends convinced me, like, come to China, be part of this startup, be a co-founder. And I agreed. And it was an amazing experience, but it was the biggest shit show of a startup you can imagine. Like, we had 7 co-founders. First of all, what a dumb idea that was. We were all living together while working on this startup. Terrible idea. We had no space from each other. We were paying ourselves a complete like starvation wages so that we could put all the money into the company. So we were all miserable and upset all the time and had no sense of happiness and energy. And nobody had defined roles. We couldn't get the business license we were supposed to have. It was just a complete mess. And then I started my business realizing that like I can use my acting and my public speaking to become a public speaking coach. And I know I can start a business because even though the last business was the shit show, it taught me that anyone can start a business, which I'd never really realized. And so that's how I got into entrepreneurship.
Beautiful. I love it. Do you think you'll ever go back into acting?
Yeah, I mean, I can see myself doing a job like a show or a movie or a TV show or a play. You know, that's what I was doing before COVID. I was running my company, but once in a while I would get offered a play, or I would get an audition and I would book some like a voice thing for a video game, which was like good money for like half a day's work or something. I don't think I would do that sort of thing now, but I did 2 plays after I started my company, which were amazing. And I would definitely do that again if I could. Like if somebody offered me a play and was like, this is a fantastic show, you're going to work with actors that are great, the director's great, the script's great, and it's going to take, 6 weeks. I could definitely see myself doing something like that, but I don't think I'll ever go back to like being a full-time actor because it's not for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. Do you believe in fake it till you make it?
I believe that it works. The reason I hesitate is because, the popular conception of fake it till you make it comes from Amy Cuddy's talk, right, on power posing. And she released the talk. I study this a lot because it's sort of within my area of interest. And everybody gets obsessed with it. And it goes viral and she becomes really famous and sought after. And then there was this like almost, from what I can tell, looking back at it, a sort of a wave of backlash. It sort of got too big, as a lot of things do. And then people started coming for her and started coming for the science that she was citing and her as a person. And it's kind of crazy. Like they started really, from what I've read about it, they started kind of attacking her and being like, she's full of shit. She's, she doesn't know this is corporate bullshit. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And then that kind of became the narrative for a while. And so people stopped talking about power posing. And then quietly, I know this because I read up on this a couple of years ago because people kept asking me about power posing and fake it till you make it. People started kind of exonerating her and being like, actually, what she was talking about makes a lot of sense. And there is new literature that supports this. And so the way I feel about it is it makes intuitive sense to me that it would work based on some kind of first principles thinking about communication. One of this is the body affects the mind and vice versa. That should be non-controversial to say that the thoughts we have can make us, shrink or rise, and vice versa. Rising can change our hormones, and like standing like this can make you look and feel stronger, and drooping can do this. And so whether there's a clear cause and effect, I don't know, but I do know if you work on your body language, you will start to appear more confident. And the more confident you appear, the better people will receive you, which will make you feel more confident. And then it becomes a virtuous cycle. So I don't know if it's scientifically true to say, do this for 2 minutes and you'll feel X percentage more confident. But I know that if you do some things to be better on stage, to be a better speaker, and to appear more confident and to sound more confident, even if you're still nervous inside, people will receive you as more confident. They will give you praise. They will give you good feedback. They will look at you like this in the audience and nod at you. And all of that is a nice virtuous cycle, which will feed your confidence. So that's why I say, I think fake it till you make it works is like, learn how to appear and sound confident on stage, even if you're dying inside, and that will have good effects. And eventually you will die a little less inside. But I will say this, I've been an actor since I was 7. I've been a public speaking coach for almost 8 years. I still get nervous every time I step on stage. It has never gone away from me yet.
Exactly.
But I have the skills to manage it now, which stops me from having panic attacks like I used to have. I don't have panic attacks anymore before going on stage.
That, exactly. So what do you tell people who are afraid of public speaking? You just kind of touched on it, but what do you tell them?
I like to start with contextualizing it. I'm not a neuroscientist or an evolutionary biologist at all, but I love reading about stuff like that because I think that's where a lot of our clues for how we interact with other human beings come from. Why do we get angry when somebody does this? Why does somebody else's energy affect us so much? Why is it so fucking terrifying to stand up in front of 6 people and say something? So I really got interested in this about 7 years ago when I first started doing this work. And I had the opportunity to talk to an evolutionary biologist and neuroscientist. And we had this big chat. And I said, here's my theory. Back in the day, in the hunter-gatherer times, when we were in a small tribe, if you stood up in front of the fire and were like, I think we should move our camp across the river. If you did that and then it was like the wrong idea, they might kill you for something like that, right? Or banish you from the tribe. Or if you stood up to be like, what you're doing is wrong, then somebody could bash you over the head with a rock. Like it used to literally be life and death to stand up and stick your neck out in front of your tribe and by saying something. So my theory was that's why public speaking and social anxiety and stage fright is so, it seems like it should be so much better or so much like less intimidating, right? But it feels in our body like it's so dangerous because it used to be. And so deep down in our DNA, we remember back in the day, if a tribe member didn't like you, they would kill you. Or you might just lose status, which would also affect your ability to reproduce or to get food or to sleep in the good spot of the cave or whatever, right? Your tribe's opinion of you, your status was so important to your survival. So deep in your DNA is that memory of that. That was my theory. And he basically said, I think you got it. I think you're bang on. So I'm not a scientist, but I do believe it makes a lot of sense to look back at our evolutionary origins and understand we were hunter-gatherers. We lived in tribes. We lived in a certain way for most of our evolutionary history. And then recently, we've started to live in cities and urbanize and have more connections and more people and use technology. But that's so little compared to the way our brains were formed. So when somebody tells me they have stage fright, I'm like, of course you do. Everyone does. And they've done studies on this. They've measured cardiovascular reactivities, like whether the heart rate goes up or not. Even people who don't say they have stage fright show increased cardiovascular reactivity when they step on stage. Nobody steps up there and has no increased heart rate. So I tell them that it's just like, you are normal, you are human. It's like, in fact, one of the most deeply human things you could have. And let's look at how to solve it. But I think it's so interesting to start there and to understand how communication and stage fright and storytelling is all linked to our original tribal ancestry. So that's what I tell them. And then the practical tips are learn breath work, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Literally just there's the 4-7-8 breath, there's the box breath technique, or there's literally just taking 3 deep breaths in through your nose and letting your stomach fill without letting your chest do too much movement. And if you just do that right before your Zoom call, the first Zoom call of the day, or right before a big meeting when you're nervous, or right before a big on-stage presentation, just those 3 deep belly breaths will already calm your nervous system. And as a bonus, give you more oxygen to have a stronger voice. So there's really practical steps you can do. Getting into your body with yoga or some kind of physical practice is really, really good for stage fright because it just makes you feel a bit safer when you're connected with your body and you feel fast and strong, like you can defend yourself. And then mindset is huge. So how you think about yourself and how you think about how your talk is going to go has a massive effect on your anxiety. So I recommend cognitive behavioral therapy. People start to Google cognitive behavioral therapy, do some of the techniques you can find online. It helps you reframe your negative thoughts, like this is going to suck. I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't deserve to be here. Imposter syndrome. All of those thoughts affect our stage fright. And if you can learn to counter those thoughts and not just believe them and let them drive you crazy, then you can reduce your stage fright like crazy.
Great tips. I love it. Thank you. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes.
All right, let's go.
Thanks.
Here's some quick fire questions for you. Day or night?
Day.
Okay. Now. Okay.
Or it would have been.
Fair. Truth or dare?
Truth.
Okay. Impact or inspiration?
Ooh, I think of them as the same thing.
Okay. Fair.
Is that a fair answer?
Fair answer. Favorite film of all time?
I think it's The Usual Suspects.
Good one.
Ryan Singer. Kevin
Cardinal
Spacey in
Sosa.
it. I know people don't like him anymore, but it's a great movie.
Cardinal Sosa. All day long.
Yeah.
Who would play you in a movie?
Hmm. Um, Probably Fred Savage, unfortunately.
Okay, okay.
That's the one I get all the time, even though he's older than me.
Interesting. I don't think so, but okay.
Okay, good.
Not at all. What is the one thing people should know about you?
That the thing I'm most obsessed with is understanding how telling your story in a more authentic and powerful way can improve your life radically. And I'm going to do that for the rest of my life and document that and try to share it with people. And if people are interested in that, then they should come along for the ride.
And you walk the walk and talk the talk. So I love it. That's amazing. Awesome. Who inspires you?
Um, so many people. My mom, my wife. Um, I like Gary Vaynerchuk in terms of the way he tells his personal story. Um, I like um, Simon Sinek for his work on Start With Why. Um, and there's a lot of great public speaking coaches who do what I do, who I'm starting to become aware of, who really help people. And Ask Vin on Instagram and YouTube is crushing it now. He's become quite big, and he delivers a lot of the messages that I really agree with in a really entertaining way. Um, and I really like a lot of fiction writers. I'm inspired by fiction a lot. Um, Ursula Le Guin is who I'm reading right now. She's an old science fiction writer. She's amazing. So yeah, I'm inspired a lot by fiction writers. And yeah, sorry, this is not a lightning answer.
Okay. Sorry. What celebrity do you think you could coach to become a better speaker?
Oh, this is a fun one. I think that Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, needs me so badly, or any
He
speech
does.
coach like me. He's such a god awful speaker, and it really, really hurts him. Now, people hate him for lots of reasons, but that's one of them, and it doesn't do him any favors. So I think I could help him massively. Yeah, whether I would or not, or he would, is a different story, but I'm willing to do it. I think helping people to become more real and authentic doesn't just help them, but it also helps the people that they talk to.
How do you want to change the world?
I want to contribute to helping people express themselves more honestly, vulnerably, and clearly. Because I think that when we do that, there's less conflict. There's more good ideas spread by people who aren't just grifters and good salesmen. So I want to help. My vision statement for a while has kind of been, I want to help 1 million entrepreneurs tell their story. And so that's still the vision, but I also think there's a lot of people outside of entrepreneurs who need these skills. And so I hope one day to also spread it beyond entrepreneurs and help people really realize that, your value to the world is not in how much money you make or your skill set necessarily, but in your unique perspective and story. So if you can cultivate that and be able to deliver that to people, then you can feel good about yourself and you really deliver tremendous value to other people. So that's what I would like to contribute to, and bringing that idea and showing people how to do that to as many people as I possibly could.
Amazing. Last question. What's next?
I'm going to be starting my YouTube channel this year, and I plan to go hard on YouTube to try to make videos about the kind of stuff that I already write about on LinkedIn and I write about on my newsletter. I also do a bit on Instagram and TikTok, but that is not my strong suit. I like to write, but I do like making videos as well. So I'm really excited to build a YouTube channel for people, especially entrepreneurs, to become better speakers and storytellers, and to both talk about the theory of it, how they can study storytelling and how they can use their voice and their body and their hands, but also by showing what I do, which is like how I prepare before I go on stage, or like what it's like to go talk to 300 people and deal with those nerves, how I'm preparing for my next workshop or webinar or pitch or on stage presentation, and trying to show behind the scenes of my work as an entrepreneur. So that's what's next for me. And then I hope to use that also to build out a program for entrepreneurs who we can do it together as a community and take clients through this transformative experience in something like a cohort or a community model. So that's hopefully what's next.
So exciting. I love this conversation. Will, I could talk to you all day long, and we've spoken for a while, and I can't wait to see what's next to come to fruition. We'll definitely be supporting your YouTube channel, and thanks for sharing your great story.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you. The Maverick Makers Podcast is sponsored by Maverick Makers Content Creation Collective. We fuel your content pipeline through video, photography, design, and editorial. Let's connect to your audiences and make more sales. Learn more at maverickmakersco.com.